Hi, my name is Dylan Everett, and I will be doing monologues from Tony Kushner's The Illusion and John Robin Bates's Other Desert Cities. I will also be reading aside from Agatha Christie's The Unexpected Guest, where I will be reading as Sergeant Cadwallader. I plan to become a desert monk, a hermit in a cave. I thought the moon. Yes, that moon, there. I've given up hope for this cannibal world. No good will come of it, or of its creatures. But the moon, oh, it's cold and bleak, they say. Perhaps in a cave, on a comfortable rock, viewing the vast expanse of some lifeless lunar desert, I'll learn to dream smaller, less tumultuous dreams. Oh, but think of me, up there. Just because I'm wasting my goddamn Stanford Berkeley education making ironic and cheerful TV shows does not mean I'm not very, very much filled with despair. Nobody who takes pleasure as seriously as I do could possibly be happy. Don't you know that? Look at me. I don't take my romantic life at all seriously. I'm probably a sex addict. I don't want kids because it's far too easy to fuck them up, and our parents call me every time they need help with their emails or cell phones, and I'm presiding over them, getting older, and parts are going to start falling off, and you haven't even noticed Dad's invisible hearing aid, which he's way too vain to discuss, and they're the only people, aside from you and Sleeping Beauty over there, that I've ever really, really loved. And you're half insane and vaguely suicidal. And Silda is completely insane and incapable of taking care of herself. And I can feel myself turning into Hugh Hefner. Welcome to the end of the goddamn Golden State. I am California, and California is not happy. Beautiful. Apposite and beautiful.
Sergeant Cadwallader.
Season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, close bosom friends of the maturing sun.
What?
Keats. You'd hardly credit the fine day it is when you think of the terrible time we had getting here last night. The worst fog I've known in years. No wonder the accidents piled up the way they did on the Cardiff Road.
Might have been worse.
I don't know now. At Porthcawl, that was a nasty smash. 1 killed and 2 children badly injured. And the mother crying her heart out there in the road.
Have the fingerprint boys finished their job yet?
Yes, sir. I've got them all ready here for you.
No trouble from the household about taking their prints?
No trouble whatever. Most obliging they were. Anxious, you might say. And that is only to be expected.
I don't know about that. Most people kick up no end of a fuss. Seem to think their prints are going to be filed in the rogues gallery. Now, let's see. Mr. Warwick. That's the deceased. Mrs. Laura Warwick. Mrs. Warwick Sr. Young Jan Warwick. Miss Bennet. And who's this? Oh, Angel. Ah, yes. That's the male nurse attendant, isn't it? And 2 other sets. Let's see now. On outside of window. On decanter. On brandy glass overlaying prints of Richard Warwick and Angel and Miss Laura Warwick, on the cigarette lighter, and on the revolver. That will be that Michael Starkweather. He gave Mrs. Warwick brandy and carried the gun into the front garden.
Mr. Starkweather.
You don't like him?
What's he doing here? That's what I'd like to know. Running his car in a ditch and coming up to a house where there's been a murder done?
You nearly ran our car into a ditch last night, coming up to a house where there'd been a murder done. And as to what he's doing, he's been here for the last week, looking round for a small house or cottage. Seems he had a Welsh grandmother and used to come here for holidays when he was a boy.
Oh, well now. If he had a Welsh grandmother, that's a different matter, isn't it?
We ought to get the report on him from Abadan any moment now. Have you got his prints for comparison?
I sent Jones round to the inn where he's staying, but he'd gone out to the garage to see about getting his car salvaged. Jones rang the garage and told him to report to the station as soon as possible.
Right. Now about the second set of unidentified prints. The print of a man's hand let flat on the table by the body, and blurred impressions on the outside and inside of the front French windows.
McGregor!
Yes, could be, but they weren't on the revolver, and you'd say any man would have sense enough to wear gloves.
An unbalanced fellow like McGregor wouldn't think of that.
We ought to get a description of him through from Norwich soon.
It's a sad story, whichever way you look at it. A man, his wife but lately dead, and his only child killed by furious driving.
If there had been furious driving, Warwick would have got a sentence for manslaughter, or at any rate for the driving offense. In point of fact, his license wasn't even endorsed.
There's some fearful lying goes on sometimes. Thank you.